So we're working on a 2001 Honda Pilot with a 3.5 liter VTEC engine. We're going to be changing out the tensioner and the belts. So this vehicle has two belts, one for the power steering, and then one that runs all the accessories, the alternator, the AC compressor, goes to the crank. You can see right down here, it's a J35A3. You can see right down there, it's a J35A3. So first thing we got to do is get this cover off. There's 4 10mm bolts down there that hold this thing off. We got to get, this is the adjustment for the power steering pump. This belt, just feeling it, is really, really tight. Whoever put this thing on last made it way too tight. Bring it down here. Hopefully you guys, that's in focus for you. But this belt, yeah, it's a little bit too tight for what I like. We should be able to push that in just a little bit more. So we'll change out the belts here. We're going to need to loosen up. We're also going to need to loosen up this passenger side motor mount to get the belts in and out, which shouldn't be a problem. And we need to take off the passenger side front tire as well. Here are all the parts, the 2 belts that we need, and the tensioner itself. The customer picked this up from rockauto.com. This whole thing came in a kit. It was about $60. It's a Gates. It's a Gates kit. Let's see where the tensioner was made. Made in Canada. Alright, like I said, the first thing I gotta do is take off the front wheel. I won't bore you with that. There's a lock on it, so we need to find the key, get the front wheel off, get it up on a jack stand. Got the wheel off. Have access to the belts. Here's the crankshaft pulley, I should say. Here's a belt for the crankshaft. Had to take some rivets out to get this paneling free and clear. They look like this. You just stick it's recessed, so you just stick a flat screwdriver under there and pop it up, and then the whole rivet comes out. So coming up on top, took the cover off, have the cover free and clear. We need to get to this screw right here. This is the adjustment for the power steering pump. The adjustment puts, I want to say lowers and raises, but puts less or more tension onto the belt there. So we need to get that free and clear, and then get this motor mount out of there. I would think those are 14mm, and we double check those right now. Yep, 14mm. Acura likes to use their 10, 12, 14, 17s, 19s. So loosen that up. Always, always, always use a jack stand when you're working under a car. Then the tensioner is right up there. I'll get more light on it when I get there, but yeah. So we're starting at the top. This is the adjustment for the power steering belt. These are long fender sockets that I picked up from Amazon. I'll put a link in the description below, but it really helps, especially when you're working on the power steering pump or you're trying to tighten down the fasteners and the battery hold down. So that's 12mm. Come in here with my 3/8 ratchet, loosen this up. It's already pretty loose. Okay, so loosen this up right here. One of the nut adjustments, it's 12mm. So then the next one we need to loosen, right back there where the socket is, there's a 12mm bolt right there that you need to loosen up as well. Okay, and then one more. There's three you need to loosen up. One more is right, hope you guys can see that, right down there. There's a ratchet, and there's a socket down, oh, let me see. Right there, you can see it. So it's directly below this seal right here. Now we can loosen up this a little bit more. Then we're able to get the belt free. All right, the belt's free. Next thing I'm gonna loosen up these two 14mm. This should be a 19mm down here on the motor mount. That should be 19. I'm just gonna loosen that up. I'm gonna take these 2 bolts out all the way, loosen this 19mm up, and then with those 2 bolts out of the way, I can just, in this loose, I can just flip this up and out. Let's come down here. It's a 17mm. I was wrong. I thought it was 19. I have a large zero offset wrench that I'm using. I'll put a link in the description below of where I got these on Amazon. 14 millimeter down there. So these two 14 millimeters don't want to budge with the 3/8. So I'm getting there with a 1/2 inch 14 millimeter with a breaker bar. They'll come out now. 1/2 inch breaker bar. Yep, they moved. If this passenger side motor mount is shot, this is a good time to go ahead and replace it as well. So I'm doing this because it's going to allow me to get the new belt in and out. Actually, you can't do it without loosening this up, actually. There's one, there's two. They're the exact same length, so don't worry about that. Pull this up. And get the old belt out. So that power steering pump wraps onto the inside of the crankshaft pulley bolt, or the crankshaft pulley, I should say. Right here where my hand is, that shiny part, that's the tensioner. You need to get that out free and clear. That would be probably a 14 millimeter on the end of that to loosen up the tension on the belt. So it's a 14 millimeter, you just get onto the end of the tensioner, and you push towards the firewall. That loosens up the tension on the tensioner, and you're able to get the belt off. So go in here with my other hand. Pulling the belt off the alternator, and now it's free. Okay, let's pull the old belts off. I'll go down on the other side and we'll pull the belts off. So here's one belt. What's it stuck on? The AC compressor. There's one. Here's a power steering. Here's two. So it's always a good idea once you get the new belts, match up your old belts, make sure that they're the same length. So here's the old one, here's a new one. Pull them apart. Looks good. Here's a power steering pump belt. Looks good as well. So we're good on belts. We're good on belts. Okay, let's get the tensioner off. Here's a new tensioner from rockauto.com. So to loosen up the tension, just a 14 millimeter onto this. Pushing towards the firewall loosens up the tension so you can get the main serpentine belt free. We have two bolts here. We have a bolt here. If you have the capability to get the crankshaft pulley free, it'll make it a little bit easier. So I'm just going back here. Right back there, there's where that hole is. That's where one of the 10 millimeters was, and there should be one right above it as well. And then we'll get the tensioner free and clear. Sorry, it's a little hard to record in here while I'm doing this, but just know I'm getting in there and trying to free the bolt up. Okay, so I got the top one off. Okay, so I'm back up on the top side. I'm so sorry about this lighting here. I know it's jukey, and I'm actually out in the sun right now, trying to get as much light as I can on this thing. So right here, all the belts are off. Right here, I know you can't see it where it's shiny. That's the socket for the top 10 millimeter bolt to get the tensioner out. So just came up here on the top side, had to get the bottom one off. Let me get this off from right here. On the right, we have the old tensioner right here, the old one. Here's the brand new one. There's two bolts, actually three bolts that hold this thing in. One, two 10 millimeters. And then right in the center, you have this long 8 millimeter one. This is the hardest one to get out of all of them. To get this thing out, I actually had to get a special tool. So I have a 3/8 8 millimeter. Then right here, this adapter allows you to put a wrench onto the end of it because there's no room because it hits the frame. Comes in 3/8, 1/4 inch, and then 1/2 inch as well. But picked this up from Sears. It's a Craftsman. Call it a 3-piece socket cap set. I'll put a link in the description below. But then you had to get I think it's a 14 millimeter, and then work the bolt out that way because there's no room. Once you get in there and you get like a 3/8 8 millimeter, it hits the actual roller. So it took a long time to get this thing out. But once you have that out, you're good to go. I won't bore you with putting the belt back on. One thing to know is put the power steering belts on first, then put the drive accessory belt on. When you put the power steering belt on, make sure you have maybe about a 1/4 inch of give when you tighten everything down. You don't want it too tight and you don't want it too loose. It's more of a feel kind of thing. And then you had to take out, I had to end up take out the oil dipstick tube as well. There's a 10 millimeter that holds that on. If you've gotten this far, you guys can finish it up. I won't bore you with that. But yeah, the 8 millimeter long bolt was the hardest one to get out. And now I'll put everything back together again. Now I pulled the tensioner out from the bottom. All right, guys, there you go.